Welcome to Monkey Tales. Today, we're diving into a new story, filled with emotions and drama. Let's get started. Am I the A for refusing my friend's request to ask my partner to drive her to work when I take time off work to give birth? At 7 months pregnant, my daily routine has become a carefully managed balance of preparation and endurance. Each morning begins at 4 a.m. with the alarm dragging me from sleep. Rising now takes more effort, with my growing belly making simple movements cumbersome. By 5 a.m., I'm dressed and in the kitchen, preparing breakfast for myself and my partner, who has been my rock throughout this pregnancy. We recently moved into a new apartment, a decision made with our expanding family in mind. The apartment is cozy and well lit, offering just enough space for the nursery we're eagerly setting up. Living here has brought us a sense of peace and anticipation for the future. Around 5 a.m., I head out to pick up my friend. She lives only a few minutes away, a convenience that has made our carpool arrangement possible over the past year. Initially, it was an easy favor, as we lived in the same apartment. Even after moving in with my partner, I've continued this routine, out of a sense of loyalty and friendship. My friend, unable to drive and without nearby family to assist, relies on me for her daily commute. By 6 a.m., I'm at her place and we head to work together. Arriving by 6 a.m., this part of my routine has become ingrained. Despite the increasing physical demands of pregnancy, my partner's schedule is slightly more forgiving. He doesn't need to leave for work until 7 a.m., allowing him a bit more time in the morning. His job is stable, and he's been incredibly supportive, especially as the pregnancy progresses. Living in our new apartment has been a welcome change. We've started setting up the nursery, buying furniture, and decorating the space. It's a small but meaningful way to prepare for the baby, providing a focus for our excitement and hopes for the future. Despite the early mornings and the physical toll, I've tried to keep things as normal as possible. Giving my friend a ride to work has become a part of that normality. However, with my maternity leave approaching, I'm beginning to realize that this routine will soon need to change. The thought of driving with a newborn at 6 a.m. is daunting, and I know it's not a practical solution. This realization has brought about a mix of emotions. On one hand, I feel a strong sense of responsibility towards my friend who depends on me for her commute. On the other hand, I need to prioritize my own health and the well-being of my baby. It's a difficult balance, and as my leave date draws nearer, I'm becoming more aware of the impending changes and the challenges they will bring. My friendship with the woman who now relies on me for rides to work began several years ago. We met at a previous job, where we quickly bonded over shared interests and experiences over time. Our friendship deepened and we became close confidants. When she got her current job, I was thrilled for her and happy to help her secure the position. This made it easy and natural for me to offer her a ride to work when she needed one initially. The arrangement was straightforward and convenient. We both lived in the same apartment complex, just a few minutes apart. It made sense for me to swing by her place on my way to work at that time. It felt like a small favor for a good friend, one that I was more than happy to provide. The routine became part of our daily lives, and it allowed us to catch up and share conversations during the drive, further strengthening our bond. As my pregnancy progressed, the simplicity of our arrangement began to shift. The demands of my condition made the early morning routine more challenging. What once felt like an effortless favor now required careful planning and considerable energy. I started to feel the strain, but my sense of loyalty and commitment to our friendship kept me going. I didn't want to let her down, especially knowing she had no other viable transportation options. With maternity leave on the horizon, I began to grapple with the reality that I wouldn't be able to continue our carpool arrangement. The thought of navigating early morning drives with a newborn was overwhelming. I knew that I needed to focus on my health and prepare for the baby's arrival. This impending change was a source of stress, as I was aware of how much my friend depended on me. My pregnancy itself had been relatively smooth, but as the months went by, the physical and emotional demands increased. Preparing for maternity leave added another layer of complexity. I had to ensure that everything at work was in order before I stepped away, and I needed to prepare our home for the baby. The closer I got to my due date, the more I realized how crucial it was to shift my priorities. Despite the challenges, I tried to maintain a sense of normality. Continuing to give my friend rides was part of that effort. However, I was becoming increasingly aware that I needed to set boundaries for my own well-being and the well-being of my growing family. The impending maternity leave was a turning point, marking a time when I would need to focus entirely on my new role as a mother and the adjustments that came with it. As my baby's due date got closer, I started to worry about how I could keep giving my friend ride. Once I was on maternity leave, I knew that having a baby would change everything, and the idea of early morning drives with a newborn seemed too hard. I was concerned about the toll on my body, my baby's safety, and how it would affect our new family routine. My friend's lack of driving skills was a big problem. Even though we live in a place where you really need a car, she never learned to drive. She always used public transport or relied on friends. Like me, I understood her situation. The closest driving school was 2 hours away, so it was really hard for her to take lessons. She also didn't have family nearby to help. Over time, my friend got more and more worried about how she would get around. She tried everything she could think of. She asked coworkers, but none of them lived nearby or had the same work hours. Public transport here isn't reliable and wouldn't get her to work on time. Ride-sharing services were too expensive for her to use. Every day, every time something didn't work out, it added to her stress and mind. Our car rides together started to be filled with her worries. She kept bringing up her transport problems, and it was clear how stressed she was. I felt bad for her, but I also had my own worries. I was torn between wanting to help and needing to get ready for my baby. One day, she told me how scared she was about losing her job. Once I was on maternity leave, I felt for her, but I knew I couldn't keep giving her rides. I told her that once the baby came, I wouldn't be able to help as much. I needed to focus on my health and my baby. Even though I tried to be understanding, she got more anxious. She kept coming up with ideas that would mean big sacrifices for me or my partner. It made me realize how much she was relying on me and how hard it would be for her to find another way. She even half-jokingly suggested that my partner could drive her, but that wouldn't work. He already works a lot, and it wouldn't be fair to add more to his plate. Plus, we were both getting ready for our baby. No matter what I said, she kept pushing for a solution. It felt like she was pressuring me, and it added to my stress. I could see how scared she was, but I couldn't put her needs before mine and my baby's. This whole thing started to hurt our friendship. Our nice chats during drives turned into our worry and me feeling guilty. I was stuck between being a good friend and a good mom to be as my maternity leave got closer. The pressure got worse. I knew we needed a solution, but it seemed less and less like that. We'd find one that worked for both of us. I was struggling with how to handle this tough situation without hurting myself or my family. One morning, as we were driving to work, my friend turned to me with a mix of determination and desperation. "Have you considered asking your partner to drive me to work once you're on maternity leave?" she asked, her tone hopeful, as if she had found the perfect solution. I took a deep breath, feeling the tension rise. "I can't ask him to do that," I replied gently but firmly. "He has his own schedule and needs to be at work by 7:30. Asking him to drive you would mean he'd have to wake up even earlier and adjust his entire morning routine." Her face felt frustration evident in her eyes. "But it's only for a little while, right? Just until I can figure something out. I really don't have any other options." I shook my head, feeling a pang of guilt, but resolute in my decision. "I understand your situation, and I wish I could do more to help. But it's not fair to ask him to change his routine. We're both going to have a lot on our plates. With the baby coming," she sighed deeply, her frustration turning into something more pointed. "It's his fault you're pregnant after all. The least he could do is help me out. As your friend, I'd really appreciate it." Her comments stung. I knew she didn't mean it maliciously, but it felt like a low blow. I tried to keep my composure. "I know you're stressed, and I'm sorry you're in this situation, but I'm not asking him. It's not just about him waking up earlier. It's about the added stress and responsibility. We need to focus on preparing for the baby." Her reaction was immediate and intense. "I wouldn't have taken this job if I knew I couldn't rely on you for rides. You helped me get this job, and now you're just going to leave me stranded." I felt a wave of conflicting emotions: anger, guilt, frustration. "I didn't anticipate getting pregnant when I helped you get the job," I said, trying to stay calm. "Things have changed, and I have to prioritize my family's needs." The car ride became uncomfortably silent, the air thick with tension. I could see her out of the corner of my eye. Her body language rigid in her expression, a mix of hurt and anger. She felt abandoned, and I felt terrible for it. But I also knew I couldn't compromise my well-being, and that of my unborn child. Over the next few days, the tension between us only grew. My friend began to insist more frequently, bringing up the topic at every opportunity. "Have you asked him yet?" she would ask, her voice tinged with impatience. "I'm not going to ask him," I repeated each time. Feeling the strain of the repeated argument, it's not fair to put that on him, especially with everything we have going on. One evening, my partner noticed my distress and asked what was wrong. I explained the situation to him, including my friend's suggestion. As I expected, he immediately offered to help, his people-pleasing nature shining through. But I quickly shut it down. "No, you don't need to do that," I said firmly. "We have enough to deal with. She needs to find another solution." He looked relieved but also concerned. "Are you sure I don't mind helping? If it's that important to her, I appreciate it, but it's not just about driving her. It's about setting boundaries and making sure we're taking care of ourselves first. We're going to have a newborn soon. We need to be ready for that. The next morning, as I picked up my friend, she immediately asked if I had spoken to my partner. I braced myself for the familiar conversation. He offered to help, but I told him no. We need to focus on our family right now. Her reaction was more intense. This time you're being selfish, she said, her voice shaking with emotion. I've been relying on you, and now you're just cutting me off. I'm not trying to be selfish, I replied, struggling to keep my voice steady. I'm trying to be realistic. We need to set boundaries for our own sanity and well-being the rest of the drive. It was filled with an awkward silence. I could feel her resentment and my own guilt weighing heavily in the air. As we arrived at work, I tried one last time to reach out. I hope you can understand my position. I wish things were different, but this is how it has to be. She didn't respond, just got out of the car and walked away, leaving me with a sinking feeling in my stomach. The conflict had reached a boiling point, and I was left wondering if our friendship could survive this strain. The tension between my friend and me reached its peak. One morning, just a few days before my maternity leave was set to begin, as soon as she got into the car, I could sense the anxiety radiating from her. We hadn't spoken much over the past few rides, the silence heavy with unresolved conflict. Today, however, she seemed determined to break that silence. I really don't know what I'm going to do, she began, her voice trembling slightly. You're leaving me in such a difficult position. I just can't believe you won't even ask your partner to help. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles turning white. I've explained this to you so many times, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. It's not fair to him, and it's not just about asking. It's about the stress and responsibility we're both going to be under with a newborn. But you're the one who helped me get this job, she argued, her tone edging towards desperation. You knew I didn't have a car or a license. I feel like you're abandoning me when I need you the most. Her words cut deep, and I felt a familiar pang of guilt. I had always prided myself on being a dependable friend, someone others could count on, but this time I had to draw the line, and it was tearing me apart inside. I'm not abandoning you, I said, my voice softer now, filled with regret. I'm just trying to balance everything. I have to think about my baby and my own health too. She shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. It just feels like you're choosing your own convenience over helping a friend in need. If the roles were reversed, I would do anything to help you. Her words were like a knife twisting in my heart. The truth was, I did feel guilty. I felt like I was letting her down at a crucial time, and it pained me to see her so distressed, but I also knew that I couldn't compromise my family's well-being. The internal struggle was overwhelming, a constant battle between my desire to help and my need to protect my own. I wish things were different, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I wish I could keep helping you, without it affecting everything else, but I can't do that right now. Please try to understand. She looked away, her face a mask of hurt and disappointment. I just don't see why you won't even ask. Maybe he would be willing to help, and then this wouldn't be such a big issue. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my emotions, because I know he'll say yes, and I don't want to put that on him. He's already doing so much, and we need to focus on our family. I'm sorry. The rest of the ride was silent, the weight of our unresolved conflict hanging heavily in the air. When we arrived at work, she got out of the car without a word, leaving me feeling more conflicted than ever. The height of the conflict had been reached, and I was left grappling with the emotional aftermath. The guilt and frustration were almost unbearable, but I knew I had to stand firm for the sake of my family. The day after our big argument, I was nervous about seeing my friend. I didn't want another fight, but I knew I had to stick to my decision. I had to put my health and my baby first, and not let guilt change my mind. When I picked her up, she got in the car without saying much. It was quiet, but I could tell she wanted to talk. After a bit, she said, I've thought about what you said. I don't like it, but I get why you're doing it. I was relieved, but still careful. I told her I want to help you, but right now, I need to take care of myself and my family. She looked out the window and said, I understand. I'm just really worried about what I'm going to do. But I don't want this to ruin our friendship. It's just a tough time. Her words made me feel better. I could see she was trying to understand my situation. I told her I was scared too, and that I wanted to keep our friendship strong while we figure this out on the rest of the drive. We talked about other ways she could get to work. She mentioned a coworker who might be able to help, even though they lived a bit out of the way. It wasn't the best solution, but it was a start. Things were still tense between us, but it was getting better. She was upset and worried, but she was starting to understand. I hoped we would both get used to the changes in our friendship. Over time, looking back, I saw how important it was to set boundaries, even with close friends. I used to always put others first, but this experience taught me to take care of myself and my family. My partner and I got closer during this time. He was really supportive, respected my decision to shield him from additional stress, and it made me love and appreciate him even more. When my maternity leave started, I felt a mix of relief and worry. It was a hard change, but it also meant the start of something new. I focused on getting ready for our baby, knowing I had made the right choice. My friend and I continued to communicate, but not as much. Our friendship had changed. But it wasn't over. I hoped we could rebuild it with time, understanding each other's needs better. In the end, sticking to my decision was hard but necessary. It showed me the importance of balancing caring for others with caring for myself. As I moved forward, I took these lessons with me, ready to face the challenges of being a mom and having healthier relationships. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking, real-life stories happening around you.